Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, Swire. My guest today is Lawrence Hanley from Desk Plan. Lawrence is a promotional product supplier who specializes in offering a niche product. In 2018, Lawrence started Desk Plan as a consumer brand and expanded business throughout the 2019, which resulted in the opening of a brick-and-mortar store heading into the 2020. However, with COVID hits and Lawrence was forced to close to his physical store. However, being a good entrepreneur, he actually found a niche and tapping into the promotional product industry. I'm excited to have Lawrence as my guest, and we're going to talk a lot more about how he started his business and growing a business in the promotional product industry. Before that, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Wire. Really excited to be here. I think I was nailed everything on the introduction. I don't think I could have done it better myself. So excited to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Lawrence, I think on your bio, I keep wondering, and if you don't mind to share with the listener who might not yet be familiar with your work, why did you wanted to get into the plant industry? Do you always wanted to do that, or it is you think this is a good industry to be in?
Sure. So it was kind of a mix of both. I'd say more on the opportunity side, business opportunity side than anything. But I happen to be an enjoying consumer of plants around my workspace. So quick little, relevant background is I was in advertising and marketing tech at the early part of my career, and I was working with a lot of e-commerce brands, helping them to grow their business through different media channels. And along the way, I got to see the back end of a lot of these businesses, how they run, where the channels of growth really are. And I really wanted to start my own business. Just seeing all these people be so successful along the way, it was very inspiring. A lot of my partners at the time, and what I found out was if I'm going to get into e-commerce as a product-based business, I need to find it was more of a personal requirement for me, but I'd certainly recommend it to anybody thinking about this themselves. Find a product that has a little bit higher of a barrier of entry than, say, t-shirts or hats or something like that, because it just lowers the competition pool. And so in my research in trying to figure out where I was going to go with starting a business, this is 5-6 years ago now, really I was looking for that type of product, and plants had a great intersect between very popular, high demand with online purchasing, and it was a growing sector in the e-commerce space. But also, you have to have things like ag licenses, and you have to be certified as pest free, and you have to do these things that are required to sell plants within your state, but also nationally. It's not as strict as alcohol laws, but you could make a comparison there, because there are some states that require their own inspections and clearances to be able to send a plant from, say, Texas to California, all of which we do regularly. But to me, that seemed like easy enough to do, where I didn't have to be a trained expert at something, but also a barrier higher than average, where it would just naturally lower the competition. And for me, as a bootstrap founder, that was going to be an important aspect to starting my business.
I like that. Especially you mentioned that this is a higher, barrel of entry, because obviously, as you described, the technical aspects, right? You have to worry about how to ship them. It's a living things. They will die if you don't handle them properly. And you have to educate people how to take care of plants, which you're doing a good job of. And really to find a product that are not going away, because if we talk about like the fidget spinner, right? It was very popular in the promotional product industry. I don't think I've seen them anywhere for the past, couple of years. So like plants, I think is here to stay. And, I'm crazy about plants. So loving our conversation.
Yeah. And the good thing is there's plenty more people just like you that feel the same way. And we obviously saw a lot of quick growth. And you mentioned, our transition in 2020. We've seen that same growth in promo, as far as what we're seeing is sort of the end buyer is saying, oh, I want some of the products that I'm buying for myself to be spread to my team. And that's where we've seen a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity, which has been super awesome to ride over the last few years.
I think his title wouldn't be right, but I wanted to say, you pivot your business, right? So, unfortunately, with the pandemic, a lot of retail got hit, but you took it online. Walk me through that process a little bit. What makes you decided you wanted to stay in this business, and how did you make that change?
Sure. So, uh, it's funny. Anybody that talks in promo always talks about how they somehow accidentally or somehow stumbled into promo, right? We had a little bit of that. The cliche of luck being a crossroads of preparedness and opportunity sort of applies here, because I was sitting there in March, really stressing, how are we going to keep the lights on? The bills are still due, and I'm not able to open up my doors. That's my main channel right now. I got a call from somebody in the space that basically asked, "Hey, can you put a logo on one of your pods? I've got a client that might be interested." And I did the old say yes and figure it out. And I was fully prepared to come back and say, "Hey, man, we failed. We couldn't do it." But I was able. I was able to find a solution, and that solution was engraving the logo onto the pots. The pots happened to be very, very engravable, and the effect was very nice. So that's really how we got into it. And sort of that first, when we sold that first project, it was then a matter of how do I replicate that? And that was the next challenge, right? So I found one customer, can I find two? Now I found two, can I find 10? And so on and so forth. And I'll be honest, for the first 6 to 9 months in promo, I didn't know any. I didn't know about PPA. I didn't know about ASI. I didn't know any of these really, table stakes things about promo. I just thought maybe we could cold call a few people, and we did that, and it had an effect. And through that cold calling, I learned about these different organizations that it's important to be a part of, and where to list my product on Sage and ESP. Sort of learned as I went. And then around 2021, I really it dawned on me that this is a potential serious channel for the business. I still have my brick and mortar at the time, and I decided, okay, I can kind of put brick and mortar under management, through hiring a couple of good managers, and they were great employees for that store, and I can focus my attention as a business leader into exploring and opening up this channel. And so, beginning of 2021 was really when I started to full force get into promo as a supplier. And to keep it concise, because we have a little time here. Basically, towards the end of 2021, I realized that because it just exploded. I realized that the channel was just so much more profitable, and it was so much more efficient to manage that supplier model of business versus having a brick and mortar and e-commerce business, that I actually ended up, being able to negotiate out of my brick and mortar contract. Really, one of the other things was, foot traffic hadn't returned really to what it was pre-pandemic. So anyway, there are a lot of decisions, a lot of things went into that decision. But I closed the brick and mortar and went full on into promo in 2022, and we doubled the business in 2022 from 2021, and we have effectively shut off our consumer e-commerce sales as well, to basically play by the rules that a lot of distributors are really cautious of when especially when working with a new product and a new suppliers. They want to make sure that you're selling through distributors, not direct. And so we completely modeled our business going into this year to be a promo business, and that the reason I did that was because the growth has just been exploding. And we've seen every time we've modeled, or I've modeled the business to be more in line with a traditional promo supplier, I've seen growth. I've seen positive reaction. I've seen every answer to that change to say, continue doing this, dig deeper, go become, more of this business model. And so that's the 3-year journey into it. It started by accident, and we're now very much a focused promo supplier to meet the industry demand for plants. And it's a very niche product, but it's definitely a growing space.
Yeah, that definitely is a very interesting product, right? You take, you're learning as you grow, like you said, and you're able to take advantage of the opportunity, and then you're not afraid to take new direction for the company. I always want to ask this question, and in the promo world, especially for the past couple of years, we always hear about the logistics, right? We have a shortage, and obviously you're dealing with a living things. You do need time to grow the plants. Like when you get like a big, huge order, like can you ramp up the production of the plant? How does that really work on a living product?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we don't do any grow kits or anything like that. We don't grow anything in house. These are succulents that even if they're like that big, they're still a couple years old. I mean, plants don't grow. Some plants do, like your pothos behind you. That thing grows like crazy. But a lot of our succulents are slow growers. So we actually have a really good supply chain that I've developed over the years with American growers out of Florida, out of California. And so when we get a large order, it takes about 10 days to get what I want in, what I need in. I have enough brokers in the industry that it would have to be an extraordinarily large order of a potentially hard to find product for us not to get our hands on it. So yes, we're able to ramp it up pretty quickly. Our pottery supplier is stateside, so we can get those pretty quickly. So we had an order with a client last year where we got 7,000 units from somebody, and the PO came in September, and it had to be in the customer's hands by November 1st. And so not only did we have to decorate everything, with laser engraver, which is a little more time consuming than say, printing something or whatever. So we had to customize everything, and then we had to put it together, package it, and send it out. So certainly there are logistical, hurdles to get through at times, but really we have a good system about doing it. And I'm able to swell my workforce as needed. I mean, we have W-2 employees here, but if we have a major product with a short turnaround time, I'm able to get 1099s in here to help get things out the door. So we have a pretty good system with being able to get a large volume order out in a very short period of time. The supply isn't a problem at all. That's something that I developed even before I got into promo, just through having a store. That didn't change at all when I went to promo. It's just a matter of taking my supply chain and just reallocating where I'm selling it. So for me, it's not really any sort of logistical nightmare. It's just a matter of setting expectations with my partners. And if they say, hey, I want 5,000 units, I'll say, look, okay, we can do that. But, it's got to be, call it 6 weeks out from the date of the order. And as long as we're on the same page and nothing changes there, we're easily able to meet that expectation. We set expectations on the under promise, over deliver side of things. So that's how we run it. That's how we work it. And so it's a pretty straightforward process, and we've got it pretty dialed in.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I do want to go back. I think you mentioned it a couple of times. It is a niche business. I wanted to find out more about your thinking process. Obviously, there is something that are easier to entry, maybe easier to find equipment, to find supply, whatever that it is. And you chose to find something that are not so obvious. But obviously, you have the confidence to figure it out yourself, especially for the shipping. I have one of the samples that Lawrence had kind enough to ship to me. It's really well packed, and to design that box, I would imagine it's not an easy process.
No. So for that, I mean, that was one of the first hurdles. When I launched my business in 2018, we launched, and we were doing a lot of sort of fairs and shows, but the e-commerce side of the business didn't launch until early 2019 because it wasn't because we couldn't build the site. We were ready to go day one. It was a packaging. And there's another sort of reason why I went into this, because all of the existing plant companies, there were 2 or 3, they hadn't even figured out their packaging yet. I ordered some samples from some competitors, at the time, and they came and their packaging wasn't good. So for me, I did outsource this, but I managed it. I went to a local packaging manufacturer in the Austin area where I'm based, and I spoke to one of their engineers, and I said, "Look, I've got this product, and I've got this problem. I need help solving it." And within about 2 weeks, they had a prototype design for me, and I tested it, sent it up to my parents up in Massachusetts. I figured it can survive the journey from Central Texas to New England, it should be able to survive anywhere else. And it did. And then it was a matter of just buying the materials to get the prefabs all done. So yeah, no, shipping, the packaging certainly is another one of those barriers to entry, because it's not like shipping something that's not fragile. You have to be mindful in how you package things and ship things and do all that. So yeah, again, there's something I figured out at the beginning. And something that's definitely took a little bit of creativity and thought and research. But ultimately, I just found an expert who knew what they were doing and worked with them, and they created something that works in our packaging system.
Yeah, all of those packaging material are sustainable. Also, I don't remember is there plastic on it. Like you can reuse all of it too. Like I've actually ordered plants before,
Mhm. Yep.
and when they come in, a lot of time I have to give the supplier a call.
Yep.
It's just it's hard to figure out, and you have to ship them fast. You have to ship them on time because again they're living. If they die during shipping, then you probably had to carry a lot of the cost. So
Yep.
really, is this where you think it's fun for you? Like you like to take on challenges, and this will probably, I think, in the back of your mind, you like those challenges, right?
I do. I like those challenges when they work, when they solve the problem. It's the challenges that have the tweaking and oh, it's still not perfect. That's where it certainly gets a little arduous. But ultimately, any challenge is going to have that, right? And for me, if there's a solution, I find it. When there's a problem, whether it's a problem with an order or a problem with the business model or marketing material, I like to be involved in that because I love the challenge of knowing that there's a solution out there. And for me, a problem is just a lesson to be learned and a way to improve my process, which is far from perfect. But for me, it's just I do enjoy putting my thinking cap on, whether it's going for a walk with my dog, or it's a thought in the shower, because something just occurred to me. It never occurs to me when I'm at my desk, right? When it's convenient. It's always sort of when I'm doing something else, my mind's wandering and being a little creative. But I do love that process. To me, it's just a way to stay sharp. I thoroughly enjoy reading about problems and researching where other people had other issues and sort of learning how they approach the problem at hand, because then that just broadens my mind and my perspective and how I'm able to approach a problem at hand. So a challenge is as much of a chance for me to find a solution, improve my process, as it is to be educated and grow my understanding of just business and how people approach different issues when things come up.
Yeah, I'm plus one on thinking about the great idea is not when I'm behind my desk. I like to. It's kind of weird to share it. I like to go into the shower to the sauna with a
Mhm.
book. I read for 20 minutes, and my best idea came up in the book, but I don't have a pen. And I don't have nothing to write with, right? I have to really remember it, or sometimes I'll run out to my phone and send myself an email. This is what I need to do. So I think, like, I guess when you're really busy working with the work, you don't come up with idea. It's when you are doing really nothing, like walking the dog or sitting in the sauna, your mind is clear. Then you can think of something that always you always stuck. But then once you go past that, it's kind of quite easy once you figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, and for me, I face the same battle. So it is, idea. Shoot, where can I write it? Where can I write it? Apple Notes has become my best friend. I have my Apple Notes is great for sort of my to do tasks. To keep things in shape every day. But also, I have a whole section or whole folder of notes for those shower thoughts, those dog walk thoughts, where it's like, and it could be a solution to a problem I'm handling at work, or it could be a new business idea, right? That I want to explore at some point in the future. But I try to make sure that I'm in a place where I can at least just put some rudimentary, thoughts, even if it's just on the app, because if I can put a relevant thought about it down, if I read about it, if I go back to my notes and review it like a day later, I'm able to usually make a connection and kind of build on that thought there.
Mhm.
But yeah, Apple Notes has been the solution to the problem you described, which I face all the time too.
Thanks for sharing that. I'll definitely check it out. So I don't, I don't go and try to, and I dropped my phone a couple of times too because of
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
want to smash the screen while you're doing it.
yeah.
It's not worth it.
I want to ask you more since you are the experts for doing that, and we hear a lot, especially in my point of view from customers. They want more sustainable corporate gift. There are magazines writing about the promo world. It's just a waste of product. It goes to the landfill. But in your point of view as a supplier for sustainable corporate gift, what are your thoughts, and how do you think that your product, and how would you advise people to make it more sustainable so that it actually get used and used and used again?
Yeah. So there's kind of a few different angles there on that question, which I'll just nice and succinctly as much as I can. So, anytime you've got a promo deal going on, you've got your buyer who works at the corporation, you've got your distributor who's putting the options in front of that buyer, and then you get the suppliers who supply that, right? So from my end, what I can control is, I can control the way my packaging is produced, right? Is it all recyclable, which you mentioned? It is. When I source my products, am I sourcing from American growers or manufacturers? That's another thing that we look at. We engrave in house, so the actual manufacturing of the finished product is done here in Austin. Can we? Are there other things like circularity of the product, right? So our products, the vessel, the pot that it comes in. If you're not a green thumb and your plant dies, that can be repurposed as a pen holder or a candle holder or something like that. So it's a product that isn't just going to go. It has other uses. It's not going right into the landfill, because that's a very big problem. I mean, there are a lot of tchotchkes and plastic little trinkets and fidget spinners that you get them and it's cool, and maybe you enjoy it for the 6 hours you're at an event, or that you open at your desk, but what is its real value? Is it going to be something that you're going to use regularly, right? So the distributor side, they have a responsibility to keep that in mind, and they can influence a lot of these buyers' decisions by putting, I know a lot of times, like, I'm not a distributor, so I don't mean to speak for them, but my understanding is a lot of times a buyer might come to the distributor and say, hey, look, we've got this event coming up. This is the theme, and we're thinking XYZ products. And then the distributor goes source those products and come up with some sort of presentation with some options, right? I think the distributor has a responsibility and can absolutely have an effect on the type of products that are offered to some effect, because if you put a bunch of sustainable products in front of the buyer, the buyer's gonna think, okay, that's no matter what I choose, I'm doing good here, right? Sometimes there are obviously picky buyers who are like, no, this is the exact product we need and want. It's got to be this way. Totally understand that that's part of it, and we all got to also keep our business open. So I understand that part too. But on the buyer side, it's a matter of educating them from our industry, whether it's a supplier. We don't deal directly with buyers, but we can certainly put information out there that might inspire those buyers to go to their distributors and say, oh, that's a cool idea, I want that, or I want to focus on sustainable sourcing or something like that. There's an education component that us as an industry can provide to the end buyers, to the corporations that are buying from our distributors, to say, look, when you buy these products, don't look at just the budget. Okay. It's not about the budget. It is about, the purpose, the value of that product going to that ultimate end user, the team, or it's a client, something like that. Don't get them this plastic tchotchke thing that is just going to go in that landfill. That's pointless. If you can avoid spending, if your budget's $5, it's tough, obviously. See if you can either increase that budget or wait until there's a bigger event where, you can spend more budget on something that's a little bit more valuable, because, two things. One, we obviously want people to focus on more sustainable options. And by the way, sustainable doesn't necessarily mean more expensive, right?
Yes.
I don't think I paint that picture. But certainly when you think about a $3 or $5 budget, you're thinking about, kind of single use products. But anyway, the other thing is, think about the person receiving the product, right? That person wants to feel good about what they get. They want you want to give your recipient something remarkable that they're going to remember. And there's a lot of options out there. Okay. Obviously our plants are a great option, but no, there's more than that. I mean, it could be a Bluetooth speaker. I use Bluetooth speakers that I got from my old company when I worked there for, 6 years ago. I still have that and I still use it because it's a great outdoor, speaker. So think about the value of the actual product that you're buying for your team or your potential clients or whatever the use case is, and think about its real value. Because if it's junk, you're wasting money. It's that logoed item is going away and it's not creating any value because it's just gone. If you buy something that can be used, whether it's something that's going to sit in a pen, it could be a pen sitting in a pen holder. It could be pen holder itself, or I don't know. There's a lot of options out there. The Bluetooth speaker, our plants. that's something that's going to be used over and over again. Even if it's a coffee mug that goes in the cupboard, and gets used once a week for your coffee because it gets washed at the end of the week, right? It's going to get repeated use and
Mhm.
potentially alternative uses. And that's the kind of product that you want to focus on. And that's the kind of product that will have some sort of sustainability aspect about it, because it's something that gets repurposed, that gets reused, that has longevity to it, and doesn't end up being a single use, tchotchke, I keep using that word, single use thing that just goes right to the landfill. I think that's the most important part to consider. And I think that's sort of the hurdle that a lot of buyers need to learn or consider when they're making that purchase for their team or their clients. So I know there's a bit of a long-winded answer, but from what I can control, it's about how we package our products, how we produce them, how we source them as a supplier. And I think from a distributor and supplier perspective, it's about education and providing options that are going to meet those budget requirements, but also have aspects of sustainability along the way. And I think that is going to make people feel better about those purchases, and give just a higher quality, catalog of options out there to those buyers. And I think that's what's important. And that's what we got to sort of focus on.
Thanks, Lawrence. There's certainly very good points in there. And I would say, because people want an easy way out, they want to make it simple, right? You
Mhm.
open a catalog from distributor, there are obviously tons of stuff that they can buy. They want to just go for the most popular, most obvious to them, and that's why we end up a lot of things that going to the landfill, because you're giving that product, your competitor giving that product, end up the end user, the target audience have like 10 of the same thing. They're not going to keep 10 of the same thing. What I like to do when people ask me what I should buy as a promotional product, that's like the number one question that I get every day, right?
Sure.
I tell them, and it takes a little bit of work. Why don't you visit your target audience or whoever that you want to send it to? Look at their desk space, if they're corporate gifts, right? Look
Mhm.
at what kind of things they have on their desk. Look around what they have around their office, and then think about an item that they don't have, but if you put your logos and give it to them, they will use it every single day. So you mentioned coffee cup. I think plants is something that no one's going to buy for the office, right,
Mhm.
when they move in. But if
Mhm.
you give it to them, especially if you teach them how to maintain the plant,
Mhm.
then they become emotionally attached to the plant. Like,
Sure.
no one's want to kill a living thing. I think no, right? There's some
Right.
people do, but most people don't.
Yep.
Once they develop their emotion, they will see that every day. They will take care of it every day. They will look at it every day. And then you think about the return on impression. We
Sure.
always, in the advertising world, we talk about how many times people will see that logo or impression or the message. The more they can see it, the better you can justify that product. So I would challenge, everyone listening right now to think of that concept. And yes, it takes a bit of work by you, and
Mhm.
you really have to find out what and when and how. But once you figure it out, and that's how you're creating that engagement.
Yeah, no, and it's right. You bring up a great point. Is the impressions, right? Everybody's so concerned about the viewability and the visibility of paid media that they put out there, right? Whether it's traditional media in a printed industry catalog or publication, or it's digital marketing, right? Everybody is really concerned with that CPM, right? And ultimately, you got to keep spending on those versions of media, because that that impression gets lost in the noise, right? And because everybody's using those channels, you have a really good promotional product and you send it to somebody, whether you're trying to win their business or they've been a great client of yours and you just want to send them a thank you gift. That thing, it could be a plant, it could be something else that's great for the desk, right? If that's sitting there in a desk of a 100-person office, which is very common, and even just 40% of the people see it, 5 times a week, just walking around the office. By the end of the year, I don't want to quote exactly but we did a calculation of this and we put it out there in one of our posts, but it was north of 2 million impressions that
Wow.
people were
Hmm.
getting just from, we consider 5 days a week, 51 weeks out of the year, minus obviously the holiday week in December, and just the repeated walking by. So look, I understand that practically nobody's going in and just inspecting everything on everybody's desk, but the reality is people will start to make, after 30 or 40 times walking by that desk throughout the work year during a work day, you're going to make a connection and be like, oh, that brand. Yeah, that's on my, coworker's desk. And that's what let me look them up. That's what they do. Okay, great. Maybe I can use them. And, it has it's not going to may not have an immediate impact on whatever campaign you're running or initiative you're running, but it will have an impact long term. And I think there are a number of different options out there that it's a great point you bring up with just the amount of people seeing something sitting out there that's constantly on that desk. That's a win if you're going into promo products. And I think that's something, if you're spending $10,000 a month on paid media, I think it totally makes sense to create, $8,000 to $10,000 for merchandise, because that's a one-time expense that's going to that person. You don't have to spend that every single month for it to have a long-term effect on viewability and impressions.
Yeah, that's very important, right? So it isn't another tool. It's not that promotional product versus the digital marketing. A lot of people want to debate me for that, and I tell them it's not really versus, right? It's together. You have different tools that you use. We're on our phones all the time, so those works for you when you're on the phone. But if you're at the office, maybe when you're at a conference room, right? What if you put the plan as a centerpiece in front of the conference room? How many people, how many C-level executives are going to see it? And you don't think of it. If you're lucky, right? If they see your logo, they order from you right away. You got lucky that day. But
Sure.
Sometimes it takes a certain touch points. That's why people still do billboards. That's why they still do the bus benches. This is another tools that you could use to place in front of your target audience. So when they are at that point, hopefully you'll be top of mind. That's the whole point. Using promotional product in a corporate world.
Well, it's exactly what you just described, Swire. It is a holistic approach, right? If you've got a bustling digital marketing campaign going on, and you're spending a lot of money on media, and you're getting in front of a target, very targeted, because as you can be on all the platforms now, you're very targeted with who you're getting in front of. If that person's seeing your LinkedIn ad, 3-4 times a week when they go on to check stuff on LinkedIn, and then they go to a meeting 2 weeks later, halfway across the country, they walk into a conference room and they see that same logo, that's going to be an aha moment. Think, oh, who are these guys? I keep seeing them around. Are they like? And then they, I know I do that as a consumer. There's tons of new brands that I get targeted with on just Instagram. And if I see some sort of real life connection, I'm going to be that much more likely to go look up, like, who the hell are these guys? What do they do? What is this product or service they're offering? I'm curious now. I've seen them a few places, and I'm not the only one that does that. And it doesn't just apply to consumer brands. So I think you nailed it right there. I mean, it needs to be considered a part of the approach, because that it's just a way that you can stand out, because not everybody's doing it. And it's just in marketing, people are looking for ways to differentiate and be unique and find shortcuts to getting the results. I think that's a really great way to differentiate and be unique, because not a lot of people are doing it, but it is a very effective practice and addition to an overall marketing strategy for those that do.
Yeah, I think final question that I have for you, I'm asking on behalf of everyone that thinks that they'll kill plants if they put it in the office. What are some of the tips, for people keeping living plants at the office?
Sure. It's real simple. It's your plant selection. The plant you have behind you, that pothos vine, great low light plant, doesn't need any sort of sunshine, and you just got to water it when it looks a little wilty. The plants that we offer are curated to be good for any measure of plant experience, right? So when we're sending out 500 units, we're considering the people that never had a plant before when we choose the plants that we offer. So just a matter of very basic care. Find the plants that are known for having low light tolerance and are drought hardy. ZZ plants, snake plants, and zebra succulents are the 3 top that I would recommend. That's what we sell, and we sell others, but those are the top 3 that we sell. They need water once every 5 to 6 weeks. Okay.
Wow.
And they don't need any natural sunlight. Here's the biggest tip I can tell anybody. When you receive your plant, quickly look up the watering instructions, whether it's from us with our little water instruction card, or you've got it somewhere else, and just look up the watering instructions. It'll tell you how often, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks. Set an alarm on your phone. It's not rocket science, nothing new. Just set an alarm for a weekly or monthly update or reminder that says water your plants, or hey, I'm your plant, I'm thirsty. If you do that, you're going to get reminded, and then you only have yourself to blame if you don't do it. You can't blame it on oh, I'm forgetful, because if you just do that, it will get the biggest thing with plants, from why people kill plants, they forget to water them. That's usually the biggest thing. If you just set that reminder, and this is a once a month kind of plant, then most likely you're going to do it, because I'll tell you what, that plant looks really good at your desk, and it's going to look really sad, and you're going to be sad if you let it get to a point where it's not happy anymore. So I would guarantee that 80-90% of the people, like you said, people don't want to kill things. They want to keep them alive. Just setting that reminder, because that's probably the biggest hurdle people have when they have inexperienced plants. It's just remembering to water them on the right schedule.
Thank you, Lawrence. I think, with that 2 minutes, you just save a lot of plants in the planet.
Well, I'm just doing my part, right?
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I learned a lot from your story for being an entrepreneur. How to really best use for product. Because sustainable is really a big keyword in the industry right now. And really, truly, thank you for just giving us tips of how not to kill our plants.
Sure. Swire, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed sharing my story with you and your audience, and I enjoyed our conversation. This was really fun, and I'm really glad we did. So thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, if you have any questions, looks like you're very capable with your plants, as I can see. But if you ever have any questions, I'm an email away.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.